Jim, I've mentioned your name before. I've had runny eyes. You don't want to cheer, you don't want to. In several calls that they do because of various responsibilities, but they certainly
At this time, I'd like to call to order the Town of City of Champaign Township meeting for August 5th, 2008. Clerk call the roll, please.
Board Member Foster,
Here.
Jackson,
Present.
Ledoux,
Here.
McIntosh,
Here.
Pirog,
Present.
Uno,
Here?
Dodds,
Here.
Finan,
Present.
Chairman Schweihart.
Here. Does anybody in the audience wish to address the Township Board? Please step forward, give your name and address.
My name is Randall Cotton. I'm at 1912 McDonald Drive in Champaign. And I'd like to comment on Board Member Vic McIntosh's conduct at the last Township meeting. During that meeting, Mr. McIntosh made what I think was a targeted political smear attack on the Township Supervisor, deliberately intending to sling mud at her reputation. Mr. McIntosh came to the meeting armed with false information regarding the Supervisor's salary, and used that information to accuse the Supervisor of somehow padding her salary beyond the usual 3% annual increase. He did so in a remarkably harsh and accusational tone. To refresh everyone's memory, here is what he said to Supervisor Abernathy.
At past general assistance fund salaries for the supervisor, I come up with 2002 of $44,124, 2003 $46,169, and in 06 I come up with 56,614, and now we're at 59,553, and that's more than 3%.
Mr. McIntosh attempted to justify this accusation by portraying it as a legitimate exercise of fiscal oversight. However, there are two facts that disprove that storyline. First of all, Supervisor Abernathy has absolutely no control over her salary. In fact, her salary, complete with annual increases, was set through township ordinance 4 years ago by this township board before she was ever even elected. In fact, Mr. McIntosh was there himself on October 5th, 2004, when he and the rest of the township board set the supervisor's salary for the next 4 years into 2009 as required by statute. Mr. McIntosh very well knew this at the time because the first thing he did at the last month's meeting before leveling his accusation was to ask the supervisor how her salary was determined.
How are salaries raised? Do we do that, or is that just is it set in statute?
With the help of the city attorney, who was sitting right next to her, she answered Mr. McIntosh's question.
Is that your salary?
That is my salary. That salary is set every 4 years. That salary was set before I took office. So those salaries are set, and then once every 4 years, and that comes up again in December, you all set it again, and that's what goes on for the next 4 years. And it's set up to go approximately 3% every year up.
Okay, thank you for right now.
At the end, he said, for right now, because Mr. McIntosh was not done. It turns out he was not interested in the answer to his question because half an hour later, in the middle of a different discussion, he completely ignored the factual answer given to him, dragged out the incorrect salary information he had dug up beforehand, and made his accusation anyway.
That's more than 3%.
The second fact that disproves Mr. McIntosh's claim of studious fiscal concern is that he made no mention of the other township salary in the budget, the salary of the township assessor, Brian Christie. The assessor's salary is identical to the supervisor's salary with identical annual increases, though they kick in later each year. But Mr. McIntosh was not concerned with the assessor's salary. He made no mention of it, even after the supervisor reminded him the salaries were the same.
Are you talking about me specifically?
Yes.
Brian's salary and my salary is pretty much the same with the difference of the time frame.
I'm going to caution you, we have a 5-minute limit, you're past that, and I suggest you go to closure than rather drag this on anymore.
It was right here that Mr. McIntosh disregarded the inconvenient fact that she had nothing to do with setting her salary and that he was singling her out. Regardless of Mr. McIntosh's true motivation, I think this was a low and devious premeditated attack deliberately intended to impugn the supervisor's reputation on live television. Although it was also sort of bumbling and comical, I remain disgusted by it, and I think Mr. McIntosh has much to be ashamed of here and has several specific apologies to make.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wish to address the Township Board? Please state your name and address.
So I'm Stuart Levy of 1108 Foley in Champaign. I'd just like to point out that as there's going to be a referendum related to the township on the ballot this fall, which is important for support of general assistance, and it's a referendum that a number of you had said was appropriate and said that it would be important to have the public understand what was being voted for. You are, of course, the township board, and the effectiveness of the township in serving its people rests on the supervisor's shoulders, but it also rests on yours. So I'm standing here to call on the township board to do what you can, which is a good deal, for public education so that people will know what the modest tax increase that will appear on the ballot this fall, what it means. State tax law requires that the ballot itself not explain the purpose of the increase, but you have no such restriction. I know that some of you have been doing this as individuals, and that's great, but I hope that more of you will do it as individuals and that you may do it collectively. So it's important that the public know that this tax increase is to support general assistance, which is state mandated and supports a very modest amount of money to a very small number of people who have no other source of support. And without this referendum, the general assistance will be very hard to fund due to reasons that the township supervisor has explained well elsewhere. But I hope you'll do what you can to make sure that the people of Champaign at least know what they're facing when they see the ballot this fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the Township Board?
I'm Martell Miller. I stay at 2107 Southwood Drive, and I want to address the Township Board. And since the Township Board is the city council members, y'all sit up here as the Township Board, and we got a referendum that's coming up in November. And y'all helped her put it on the ballot, voted that y'all wanted this referendum, and me looking in the newspaper and looking at all the other entities that goes out to the public, I wonder why ain't the Township Board supporting this referendum to get it passed. And I just wonder what is the Township Board is doing to get the referendum passed in November. Are y'all pushing to get this passed, or y'all just hoping that it passed through the voters? You know, if we want something to pass through the referendum, it takes all of the board to support the township. You know, Linda can't do it on her own. And that's my question to the Township Board. I'm not talking to you as city council members, I'm talking to you as the township board. As the township got a board that don't support her, how you expect the referendum to go through? You know, it's a different when you sit up here as city council members and you do city council business. But when you're at the township meeting, at the township board, y'all got to support her. And that board members, if you got a board that don't support you, how do you expect for something to move along? That's something I do not understand. You know, I watched the last township meeting, and it was a personal vendetta against Linda, and I didn't understand that. What was going on against Linda, it should have been a couple of y'all up there saying, you know, that is not right. But then nobody speak up for her. So I wonder, as a township board, what are y'all gonna do to make sure this referendum passed? Because as city council members, y'all make sure other things get passed through the city that stops money coming into the township. You know, when y'all say that y'all gonna defer payments to things, that stops tax money to going into the township. So we got to figure out how to help the has-nots like y'all help the has. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the township board, please step forward.
Good evening. My name is Brian Dolliner, and I live in Urbana. The first thing I want to address tonight is this
Street address in Urbana, please.
303 West Locust.
Thank
in
you very
Urbana.
much.
But the first thing I want to address is this very divide that is used to pit Urbana against Champaign. This is frequently used to dismiss these so-called radicals from Urbana, but I want to say here that we're all here tonight supporting the township in support of a larger community. We all live in this larger community of Urbana-Champaign, and that's the community that I'm speaking to and speaking for, and that I'm concerned about. In Urbana now, although we have half the population in Urbana as Champaign, we're now paying twice the amount of social services. So in effect, Champaign has displaced the social services over to Champaign. Now, I got no problem in Urbana helping the needy, helping the poor, helping the unemployed, the disabled, the kind of work that the township does. But I think that Champaign can also hold up their end of the deal. It was reported in the newspaper earlier this year that Champaign has 5 cranes overhead, and we can all see the great amount of construction being done in Champaign. We can be assured that there's a great deal of opportunity, affluence in Champaign. Champaign can afford to help the township recipients, those who are disabled, those who are the neediest of the needy. With this township referendum coming up in November at the major elections, I think this is important, extremely important issue locally. Incremental tax in Champaign to aid the township. Tax which would only be $5 if you own a $100,000 house, or $9 if you own a $150,000 house. This is affordable to most of the people on the township board and to most of the people in the property owning people in Champaign. So I think it's important to support this township issue. I'm pleased to see certain individual efforts by members of the township board, specifically Deb Finan, who helped out in the case of Margaret Freeman, helped her to get off the streets, helped her to find some aid. But this kind of individual effort is inadequate when we have a mechanism to help these kinds of people, the mechanism which is the township. If we would fully fund this township, we wouldn't have to deal with these individual efforts in some kind of quick fix to just sweep the unemployed, the poor, the homeless off the streets of Champaign to make it more aesthetically pleasing for the downtown shoppers. Champaign can afford this township referendum, and I urge voters to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the township board, please step forward. Anybody else? Seeing none. Do we have any correspondence from the board members to share? Seeing none, Linda.
No, I have none.
Chair will accept a motion to approve the minutes of a regular board meeting held July 1st, 2008.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and second. Question? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair will accept a motion to a summary of checks written June 2008.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Quarterly financial report, motion to accept and place on file.
I move that we accept and place on file.
Second.
Motion second, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Old business, anyone? Linda?
Yeah, I wanted to draw your attention to the, your board packet, and in your board packet, I placed in there for your review the compensation ordinance that actually set my salary in November of 2004. And I wanted to also put on, which I'm assuming that we will put it on the agenda. I spent some time reviewing the documents from past ordinances for salaries for the assessor and the supervisor. And one of the things that I realized is that basically there was some sort of a special meeting prior to you making that decision so that you would have an opportunity to discuss the increase of those salaries. As I said last time, salaries are set to raise 160 days before the election, which would be coming up sometime in April. So those, the salaries for the supervisor and the assessor must be set, I believe, well, I know it has to be set before that December meeting, but I think sometime in November. So I'm thinking that I will put, and you all can certainly let me know if this is suitable, but what it is you would like to see done. Last, I think, couple of times, my predecessor did a salary survey and came up with some salaries that were across the board in other townships, not only in Cunningham Township, but in townships much like the city of Champaign. And I think it'll give you an opportunity if we set something up so that you'll have ample time to discuss it. I know that at the last meeting, Vic mentioned that there was not a lot of opportunity to talk about the township budget. And I also went back and did a lot of research on how things were processed and done in the past for the township budget, and there really wasn't much of a process that I could see. However, I agree that the town board needs to have an opportunity to look at the budget and have an opportunity to make comment. So I am working with the city staff, and actually, I'm sure that you all have gotten notice that Jennifer Johnson in the city financial department will really be working closely with the township. And we are going to be setting a target time to pull together some stuff about the budget so that you'll have it in plenty of time so that you can make comment on it. And so if you have comments about any of those things, please feel free to contact my office. Thank you.
Thank you. Any town board members have comments to make at this time? Deb?
I just wondered if you were able to follow up with Heartland to figure out whether or not the student information was included in the poverty report.
Yeah, you know what, Deb, I promise you I didn't forget. I just didn't have the time, but I will definitely follow up for you.
That's okay. That's great. Thank you.
Any other board comments? Any additional comments, Linda?
I guess the only other comment that I might have too is about the upcoming referendum. And again, I just want to encourage you as board members. I will be making contact with you to see what kind of efforts you'd be willing to put forth in that grander scheme to get the referendum passed. As you know, we are only asking for 2 cents, and I have to say, as I said to Tricia the other day, it's been a hard call to think about it, quite frankly, with the cost of gas prices and hearing the mumblings and the complaints and the pain of men and women who are struggling to make it work for them. And so I definitely am moving very guardedly, and I do feel that while I believe that people could afford it, it is a 2-cent additional hike in their taxes. And so we definitely need to educate, and I would really like it if some of you would like to join that effort. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Thank you. The next meeting is September 2nd, 2008. Chair will accept the motion to adjourn.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor, if I may. I don't mean to be presumptuous, but I didn't hear a call for more public participation, and I think there are other people here who wanted to participate publicly on other issue areas. So,
Well, I did open the floor for public participation, but just so you understand, this is for the township meeting. I think you're here for a different issue that's on our regular council agenda. This is for township business only,
okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for clarifying.
because I knew I didn't make a mistake.
Well, last time I was here was 20 years ago, so I'm a little obscure with regard to your rules.
Only 18.
Chair's still open for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. That moves us into the pre-council meeting. We have no consolidations this evening.
No, Your Honor.
Does anyone have any other business to share at this time? Seeing none. City Attorney? Nothing, Your Honor. That moves us right into the regular city council meeting. I'd like to call to order the regular city council agenda for Tuesday, August 5th, 2008. Invite you all to join me for a moment of silent prayer, followed by the pledge. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, call roll, please.
Councilmember Foster,
Here.
Jackson,
Present.
Ledoux,
Here.
McIntosh,
Here.
Pirock,
Present.
Bruno,
Here.
Dodds,
Here.
Finan,
Here.
Mayor Schweihart.
Here. Moves us into the next order of business, and if Mr. Forsman would meet me down front, and Steve Clarkson. I don't generally do this, but I got to tell a couple of stories, being that got a recycle chief, and when he came here the first time, one of his first assignments was sharing a storeroom window with me on a stakeout at Country Fair Apartments, watching for an arsonist. His wife wasn't here in town yet, and I probably shouldn't have, but I accused him of window peeking instead of watching for the arsonist. And then I had a request from one of the firemen that they hope that you've taken driver's training since you left here. But again, during this, we're glad to have you back. It was enjoyable when you were here before, and we're glad to have you back with us again. And I'm going to have you read the oath.
I, Douglas Forsman, have been appointed to the office of Fire Chief in the City of Champaign and the County of Champaign, aforesaid, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Fire Chief to the best of my ability. Thank you, sir.
I've asked, Steve Clarkson, who has gratefully served as acting chief in our absence of a chief, who's done a great job with us here in the city, and he's here to present you with your badge. I cautioned him. I said, don't stick him.
That's right.
Chief Forsman, it's my honor and pleasure on behalf of the citizens of Champaign and the men and women of the Champaign Fire Department to present to you the badge of the fire chief of the Champaign Fire Department.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor, for those stories. It's great to be back, and this is a really quality city. And you know, when you leave and come back, you really notice that difference. And it's a quality city because of the people that live in it, and the people that work in it. It's a delight to come back and work with some familiar faces and some new faces, and I look forward to it very much, serving them and serving this community. And it's also very nice to work with a mayor who I have served with as a public safety official as well in the past, and a great council as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair will accept a motion to approve the minutes as listed on the agenda, down to, with the exception of the approval of the executive session minutes.
So moved.
Second?
Motion is second. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor, now we move to three motions that concern what really should be called closed session minutes, not executive session minutes. So that's an old habit we're trying to break of referring to them as executive session minutes. But I move to approve all the closed session minutes dating between and including September 4th, 2007 and November 27th, 2007, referred to on the attached lists labeled List B and List C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions? Should we have a roll call vote on these closed session meetings or not?
Your Honor, I suspect you've been at a lot more of the meetings at which these been approved than I have, so I'll leave it to your judgment.
Seeing no questions, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor, I move now that we release the closed session minutes